Hey, I'm Heather. You're watching RNRTV, and I'm here with Ben from Goatwhore. Hey, Ben, how you doing?
How you doing today?
Hey, how's your tour going so far?
It's going pretty good, I guess, man. It's not. I mean, it's just like we got a string of 7 shows, and like 3 of them we're doing with I Hate God, and like tonight, tomorrow night's us, Pig Destroyer, I Hate God, and some other bands from the local area, and then on Sunday we're playing Boston, and it's us, Anal Cunt, and I Hate God, and some other local bands from those areas. So it's just like a little week stretch of dates, and then we're doing dates like outside of that to kind of get to point A to point B, and then when it's over to get back home in a sense. And then we'll go home for like maybe like 8 days, and then we go out with Municipal Waste. And then after that, we go to Europe with Skeleton Witch and Toxic Holocaust.
Over to Europe?
Yeah.
Wow, I just heard you were at New York with the Obituary.
Yeah.
How many months do you tour out of the year?
I'd have to say when a new record comes out, we in a period of 2 years, we probably tour pretty close to the 2 year span.
Straight.
Pretty much. I mean, like with like intervals of like a week off or maybe a month off or something like that. So when you look at it, maybe like within 2 years, maybe 20 months or something like that.
That's a lot. So how do
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have
yeah.
any time to be creative to make something to record in the studio?
That's a good question. I don't really know. I just, I just go with the flow in a sense. I find when I get in a position where I kind of start thinking about too much and then the stress kind of builds, it's when it starts negating the whole like creative process. And, so I just start, pushing it all to the side, and then I just kind of move forward with everything.
Well, you have a new album out. Well, I guess you want to call it a CD. It's Carving Out the Eyes of
No,
God.
it's like album.
Album? Do you still say album? How long does it take
Record.
you to put it together when you're in a studio?
Actually, the whole put together process is the extent of the time before we put the actually go into the studio. Because I mean, you're sitting in the room and you're taking pieces and you're putting it all together. Like as far as like when Sammy and Zach sit down and they're putting the parts together, the drums and the guitars and all that stuff. And as we're building that up, we want to do like have something that we kind of all feel is right. So it's like we can go through a whole song and then get to the point to where after the song's solidified, we can jam it for a little bit, and if the feeling isn't there, we just kind of throw it away maybe and start from scratch until we get to ones that we actually feel comfortable with, and they, after we have gotten through the whole song and the way the vibe feels in it, we just won't let it slide anymore. And I mean, it was a lot of focus on the new record was that case. And then what we were doing too, as we were getting songs that we really liked, we recorded them, whatever, on like a little 4-track or whatever, through GarageBand on a computer or something like that. And we'd send them to Eric Rutan, who we did the record with, so he was familiar with, the newer material when we entered the studio. And so when we entered the studio, everybody's on the same page. You have a month there to do everything, and when everybody knows what's going on, it just runs smoother and everything goes better. And I think too that's why things on this record for us went so much smoother, because being more prepared from the get-go and going into the studio and someone who was familiar with what we were doing and familiar with the work before we even got into there. So, and it's all a little process, like Sammy and Zach get together, they do the songs. Once the songs are solidified, I get them and I go through them and I start putting words to them and like vocal patterns and how things are going to sit. And then, the whole puzzle kind of lays out and it falls into place.
Well, you have a new video out. It's called Apocalyptic Havoc.
Yeah.
What was it like creating that? And you used the same director for this one this time.
This video was kind of low budget, I mean, they're all kind of low budget because we're not like some huge kind of band, so you got to try to skim by financially and get what you can. But David Brodsky, who did it, he did the last 2 videos for the last record, for Alchemy of the Black Sun Cult and Forever Consumed Oblivion, and he does a phenomenal job. I mean, dude, I have majority of the videos you see on MTV Headbangers Ball now, every single one is like his. He's done it. He did an awesome job, and like I said, we had a low budget for it, and what he did with it and what he did for Apocalyptic Havoc was amazing.
Yeah, that looks really good.
Yeah.
And you're on Metal Blade Records now.
Yes.
How do they treat you? Are you getting really good support?
Yeah, I
and
mean,
creativity.
they're a label. I don't really like to get too deep into that. It's labels and bands and the whole music industry is a lot of politics. So a lot of times we like to just avoid it. I mean, it's got its bad points, it's got its good points, and then it's like that's a whole nother interview in itself, actually, because of, you know, let's just say be smart on your decision making, and then when it comes time to blame somebody, make sure you were the smart one before you start parting the fingers. If you just signed some contract out of nowhere because you wanted to be a star, because then basically it's your fault for just jumping into it.
Well, thanks a lot for coming out. I'm looking forward to getting down there and seeing the show.
It should be pretty exciting.
Yeah,
you know? I mean, IAGOD doesn't do, you know, a lot of shows. You know, when they do, it's usually a big hoopla. So they got. It should be some exciting shows the next 3 days.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
This is Heather at RNRTV.